Are we ready? Okay, 6:02.
Britton, Merritt,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Van Sickle.
Yes.
Okay, so we still have to approve the agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Van Sickle,
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes. Okay, so now, do I need to say this?
I don't think it's bad.
Yeah. Okay, so a separate public hearing is now required for the proposed tax rate. This public hearing must be held in a standalone meeting. The public hearing notice was published on March 11th in the Ogden Reporter. The proposed tax rate is $13.4597. So we will now open the public hearing.
Yeah, do you guys have questions or concerns or?
Yeah, I assume that's for $1,000.
That is correct.
And then you don't know what our assessed values are off the top of my head.
So it's interesting because they use this 1345 is what the proposed rate is per thousand as kind of a standard. But there is a rollback. I'm not sure if you're aware of rollback. So sometimes people get confused because they'll look at their assessed value and let's just say 200,000. They'll simply take that 200,000 times that 1345 and they quickly come up to a number that is pretty outlandish for their property taxes. The reality is there's rollbacks right now, which make it a little bit confusing. And I think we figured it out. It's 58% is the rollback.
Yes, you pay tax on
42% of it.
of your assessed.
Of the value.
Yeah,
Of your assessed value.
And then House of 1349
Then it would be off of that.
off of the
Yep.
1,000 of that value and not the assessed.
Correct. So if what I was, the 58%, so if you have a $200,000 house, you would actually pay 42, it'd be 82,000, and it'd be the 1345 of that 42 because of the rollback, if that makes sense. They are trying to change this because the rollback is so confusing and people don't fully understand it. So they are, like right now, legislatively, that is a big topic right now, property tax reform, adjusting and changing things, and making it more user-friendly for our property tax individuals.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that the board, and they can speak as well, but we have consistently tried to make sure that our property tax rate stays consistent for our patrons. The last thing that I think that they really wanted is this kind of this yo-yo effect. And if you've looked at our property taxes over the last 5 years, we've continued to either stay steady or slightly decline. We've been around 14 all the way down to that 1345. And I think Melissa's actually going to be a presentation a little bit later, which it actually maybe is even a little bit lower yet. I'm not going to reveal all that information.
Because this is the max.
This would be the maximum rate that we would set.
This isn't the actual rate that we are setting. We're saying like that it will not be more than this. Is what we're saying.
But is this just for the school?
Just for the school.
Yeah. Yes.
And the city will have their increase, and the county will have their increase.
I think the city had a decrease. Linda, are you holding the statement from the county? I believe the city had a decrease. And then towards the beginning of that. Oh, that's just that ours.
Okay.
I was reading it on it.
Would it be okay if I look at it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Melissa, you can.
Sorry, I was like,
No. So really, this is where our current.
I got something to say from my
So
cabinet.
you can see what our current tax rate was. And then this is
It was
so
crazy.
you can see
Where is that at,
what
Earl?
30 cents
How
more.
much he got.
Okay.
You can look at the county and then also the city.
It wasn't what I thought. I thought it was pretty high. I think,
For the county's actually going down.
I think
And
the
the
rate
city's
was
Did they just assess you way high, maybe?
Yeah.
Which is at 78 cents is what they're proposing.
I just.
You gotta convince them that it's a.
And ours, what we, that's.
That's way too much hassle for $50.
I get it, yeah. Yep.
Divided between 3 people, so.
It's all confusing.
It's very
It's so
confusing.
confusing.
Yes.
100%.
So when it comes to the school, we only have the authority to set our levy. So so our levy is actually going down a little bit. So if people's taxes go up, it's because of their value of their house went up, or the state of Iowa changed the rollback, or a combination of both. So there's some dynamics here that we have no control over. But our levy rate is actually going down a little bit. That doesn't mean your taxes are going down, but.
Are part of the equation.
Right. So if your taxes are going up, it's some other mechanism. It's not us.
Yeah, probably.
Yes. Any other questions, Mike?
I don't know enough to ask questions.
I get it, yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being here and attempting to clarify. It is very, very confusing, so. Were there any written?
There were no written comments.
Okay. That's right.
No more, then you can go ahead and close it.
Okay, all right, we will call the hearing closed at this point. And now,
We'll adjourn from
So we
that,
adjourn from
and then
that.
we'll have to open up for regular business.
I'll make a motion to adjourn
Okay.
this public hearing.
Second.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Van Sickle,
Yes.
Merritt.
yes. All right,
If you want to learn more about budgets, we're going to open up another meeting, and a large portion of that next meeting is going to be about school finance, and it's going to be a presentation. So you're certainly welcome to stay for that, but the public hearing for property taxes, we just concluded that portion.
Yeah.
But you're able to stay for any school board meetings that are open to our community.
yeah. And it's actually, she does such a good job of laying it out so that even I can understand. So it's quite a feat. Okay. 6:10, anybody want to?
Settled with the teachers for next year already?
No. No, not yet. Step 1, this piece. Ben. Alright, call on Jordan.
Yep.
Merritt,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Van Sickle.
Yes.
All right, I will take a motion to approve this agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve this agenda.
Second.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Van Sickle,
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes. Okay, a couple personnel recommendations. Do you have any comments about that?
Yeah,
They're pretty
so
straightforward.
one of them was just a replacement for an opening that we had for the associate at the elementary level. So Shelby has actually joined us already and doing a great job. And then with our early retirement, you guys are aware that we had some openings and we worked to fill at least one of those positions thus far. Marley actually did her student teaching with us and did a great job and went through the entire interview process, and that's the recommendation from Ms. Krause for that third grade position. Again, we haven't filled the other ones yet.
I'll take a recommendation or a motion to approve that.
Motion to approve personnel recommendations as presented.
I will second.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Van Sickle,
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes. Okay, next, remember this is the policy that we talked about a couple weeks ago rather, just upping those superintendent's
Purchasing
authority to
thresholds.
purchase, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Anybody have any comments or questions about that? All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of policy 705.1.
I'll second it.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Van Sickle?
Yes.
Barrett?
Yes. Okay, on to the budget.
Yay, budget.
Yay, budget.
I know you guys are as excited as I am. Yay, budget.
You got one?
You want one? Everything's gone.
I'll stand back here. Earl, can you hear me back here?
I can hear you.
Okay, so tonight is just the informational meeting, and we're not certifying anything. This is just information on the budget. So the role of the board in budgeting is to set the property tax rate for the next year, notify the public of any changes in our estimated expenditures for the current school year, and then to notify them of what we estimate spending in the future year. The certified budget is a document that shows the amount of taxes that are going to be levied for each fund and programs, and then the aggregate revenues and expenditures. It's certified by the board no later than April 30th each year, after holding a public hearing. So tonight we are informing the public but not certifying the actual revenues and expenditures for last school year. We're informing them of where we re-estimate we're going to end this current year as of revenues and expenditures. And then we're informing what we expect to spend and receive next year. And then we will be certifying the maximum we can spend from July 1st through June 30th of 2027. So just some information on the property tax rate. This was the graph that we looked at in February about the our historical property taxes and how they're made up, and what the proposed property tax levy was, and that was at $13.45. These are where our actual tax rates are going to be, so it's going to be $13.40 and a half. It goes down 1.2 cents next year. I thought it was helpful to see what our neighbors are doing as well, so I collected the maximum tax rates from every district that touches us, and also the line shows how it's changing. Are they going up or down? So the big changers, Greene County is going down 60 cents, and Southeast Valley is going up 60 cents. So they're moving around a lot. We still have the second lowest property tax rate of the people that touch us. Looking at their revenues and expenditures, this is what we're certifying in there for, and showing the ending fund balances for each of our funds. Just the main thing, does it work? Oh, there it is. Nope, not on the screen. We're overspending in every fund for next year is the important thing to see there. This is the certified numbers. This is what I've put in, and you'll see some of those are a little overstated to be conservative. So starting with the general fund and our most important fund for revenue. So our practice each year is I like to budget conservatively, so I'm under budgeting what I actually believe we're going to receive in revenues just a little bit to make sure that when I over budget our expenditures a little bit, we are still able to cover all of those. So they go in order here. So we've got fiscal, what actually happened in 23, 24, 25, where we think we'll end 26, and then what I've budgeted for 27. So budget was down here, actual ended up there for revenue. Budget for 24 was here, and we actually ended up there. I've got the estimated budget for FY26 is 8.9 in revenue. I am actually anticipating we're going to receive closer to 9.1. So that's what that blue line above your graph is where I realistically think we will finish the year, but we budgeted low just to be safe. So same thing, I budgeted $9 million in revenue for next year, but more realistically, it will be over 9.1 again.
Can I ask questions as
Yeah,
we go?
as we go, it's
Or
fine.
At the end.
No, as we go, please.
So when you say, hey, you approach this budget,
Yep.
and you're like, what are your guardrails? Like, you don't want to severely underestimate your budget, but you don't want to overestimate.
Right, so when we're looking at the pieces of our budget where we have the control, as I'm going through, the budget system is automatically generating what we're going to generate in property tax revenues for general fund. So we're putting that in. It's automatically generating what state aid is going to be. So that is in. Those big pieces are there. The things I look at is what is our open enrollment revenue going to be for the next year? That's a big piece for us. What do I expect we'll receive from student fees in the year? How much are we going to get in federal funding? And so those are some of the pieces where I'll budget conservatively because we don't know exactly how many open enrolled kids we have yet for next year. So keeping that number a little tight. And the student fees number, I usually look at what we actually received in the previous year and do that or a little less, when in reality those numbers are growing a little bit each year.
So do you say like, on the ones that some of these are pretty hard numbers.
Yes,
right?
some of them are
The
very.
ones where you have to interpret and have to.
Where I have
Are
a
you
little
like
more
a
discretion, I hold it a little
5%,
closer to the chest. I don't do it. I
10%.
know I'm just an eyeballer and then lower it a little bit to be safe.
You've done it enough years.
Enough years that you
know.
get the feel of where it's going, or if it's starting that decline, I reduce it a little bit more.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In July, is when new school
Yeah.
starts.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you get your income from the state,
Funny, you should ask. They
changed
just changed that. So the income from the state used to come in 10 monthly payments, equal payments, September through June. Now it's going to come quarterly. Sometime in July is when they said our first payment will be. So instead of 10 equal payments, I'm going to receive 4 next year, starting in July, which is helpful for cash flow over those summer months because historically we've been using our reserves to make those payments because we're not getting the money in from the state.
so we get plus.
I think so. We have the opportunity then to invest a quarter's worth of revenue and earn a little bit more interest on it than maybe we have been. So
Did they do that for efficiency's sake, just to have less transactions out there, and
I believe so.
they're only
For-
doing 4 of them for a district instead of 10?
Yeah, for their efficiencies on having to issue all of those payments, I think so.
That was the theory that they were telling people, that they were trying to improve efficiencies at the state level and 4 payments versus the 10 payments.
Yeah.
Most superintendents, SBOs, are talking about it being a win because we are getting that money in advance. Some schools don't have the cash flow to actually pay salary and benefits in July, August, so it's really tight. We have a good amount of that, so it wouldn't be applicable for us, but we could maybe generate some revenue based off of investing, like Melissa had said. So it could be a win for us.
So I thought it was kind of helpful too. This might help answer the question, Matt, too, on what makes up our general fund revenue. So the majority of that is taxes and state aid, which is that per pupil funding amount. The next largest portion is our open enrollment in revenue, and then there's 2 teeny little lines. On the top is federal. Yeah, federal. And there's a little line here of other local sources. So those like student fees, the payment from US Cellular to have the cell tower on our land, those types of small things. So those discretion. So from here up is really all I am budgeting. And so small pieces. I think I have undercounted children here. So that's why I think our revenue is going to be higher. I only have 1.4, 1.5 estimated for open enrollment in revenue, and we had almost 1.7 last year. So that was where my discrepancy was.
And if you guys recall, our open enrollment in has actually increased over the year. So if we keep that trajectory, which we're optimistic we will,
And I've corrected that by coming closer at 1.7 in my estimations for next year for open enrollment revenue.
Now that's closed, right now. I mean, they can't continue.
March 1 was the deadline
Right.
for first grade and beyond. So kindergarten has until September 15th.
Oh, okay. So you don't really, you know the numbers, is that what, okay?
Yes, we were able to capture a few more this
Okay,
year.
yeah.
moving on to expenditures, I like to show this graph. It's our structure of an expense. There's all these pieces that we use when we're coding an expense to help us really talk about like what it is, where it's coming from, what it's going to be used for. Our conversations around the board table usually talk about where is it coming from and what is it. So that's what we'll talk about in the next few slides. Our general fund expenditures is the reverse of the revenue. I'm over budgeting to make sure we have enough to cover if something catastrophic happens and we're coming in low. So again, you'll see a couple of blue lines over towards your budget. Fiscal 26 re-estimation and fiscal 27 budget. That's my more realistic where we will actually end up, but we budgeted this extra as just in case safety nets. Two of our big drivers there is still, I would say, here to here, there's not much change in our actual and there to there, but from there to there, we're seeing another large jump. We had a $250,000 increase in salaries and benefits from 25 to 26, which included a couple of new people as well. We added 2 additional associates, so those extra personnel. We're ordering some new curriculum this year, which we hadn't done for the past couple of years just because of changings in standards. And and the AEA funding has actually negatively impacted us. I looked through our AEA funding. We're bringing in $233,000. Based on my estimations, we'll pay the AEA at least $270,000 for their services this year. So we were one of those districts that, in old models, benefited from everybody just paying into the AEA and receiving your services for free. A couple of other things to note: our annual expenditures will exceed our annual revenues starting this year and continue to do so for the foreseeable future. And if you remember, we've talked about our unspent balance. It's too high right now, so this is okay for the next 2 to 3 years, but not sustainable long term. Health insurance continues to be high and volatile from year to year for us, so it's a big strain on our expenditures, and I don't know what our renewal is yet, so we don't have those new options. We have declining certified enrollment. Those resident kids is declining, and that hurts our general fund revenues, and then those AEA funding changes.
So do you have more flexibility in estimating expenditures versus revenue?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's a lot more intuitive.
Yes.
On the expense side versus the revenue side.
Yes. Okay. Future projections for our unspent balance. We're sitting at 30. We had a 30% unspent balance last year. I'm estimating right around 30% again this year. But you'll see that drops slowly at first and then significantly out. And we've talked about this at the finance committee. It's okay to have the bell curve, and it's okay to see this go down because our board goal is to have an unspent balance between 15 and 20%. So we are still above our board goal. So getting that back down in range is where we want to be. But we need to, things have to change before we drop from 13 to 5. But that's 5 years out. That is 5 years out, and every year the model updates and changes a little bit as we have concrete numbers to go in. These are all estimates. We are guessing what the student enrollment is going to do. Next year, when we have solid enrollment numbers, that changes, that goes in as a solid number, not a guess, and it changes things as we go. So I like to see a bell curve. I don't want to see it tank out. So we're going to keep watching this, obviously, over the next few years to make sure that we don't end up tanking.
And in reference to some of our newer numbers, in years past, this is kind of the same curve.
Yes, we have always.
This isn't something new. It always kind of tails out off 5, 6, 7 years out. So
right.
This is fairly common.
The management fund, this covers our property insurance, early retirement stipends, the natural gas risk insurance, unemployment claims, any workman's comp. So last year, or this year, we under budgeted significantly. Our revenues are far less than our estimated expenditures for the year, and that was related to the budget guarantee. So with that declining enrollment, we were guaranteed a 1% increase in our total funding, but that was all property tax driven. And so in order to generate that property tax revenue, and maintain a steady tax rate, we dropped the management fund levy for this year, utilized our reserves to make those payments so that we would not have to increase our property taxes. This upcoming school year, the state is going to pay for the budget guarantee. So them paying for us our about $200,000 on the budget guarantee allowed us to levy almost what we need to cover our management fund expenditures. Virtually zero. So we didn't have to eat that again in a second year in our management fund balance. Pebble and Save, they used to, if you've been on the board for a while, we used to have a cute little picture of silos and we spend this on this and we use Save for this and Pebble for this. Now with our new Pebble notes, Pebble and Save has become kind of a nuanced 12-year plan for all of our capital purchases. It's not always a bus out of Pebble. It's a bus out of Pebble this year and a bus out of Save in a different year, just to make sure that our revenues are covering all of our expenditures. So these two funds together are paying for our buses, our maintenance vehicles, computers, copiers, roof repairs and replacements, building repairs, our track resurfacing once a decade, furniture, and then those bond payments. We do have a sales tax bond, and we will have a Pebble note now as well to pay for. Through fiscal 30, we're going to be utilizing fund balance reserves to continue all of this business as usual while also paying for the new construction pieces. So I've stacked them together. Our revenues and expenditures for the next couple of years will be less than what I expect in expenditures. But again, we've planned this out 12 years to make sure that these few years are within what we are able to afford. Our debt service, I'm estimating 2.2 in revenue and expenditures. So in 2017, the voters approved the $10.875 million bond to build the middle school addition and remodel the elementary school. Each year, what's required to pay those bond payments is determined based on what the principal and interest payment is. So the system automatically calculates what level the debt service levy needs to be in order to make that payment. And as the valuations increase, the amount of levy required decreases. So we can utilize a surplus to fill us back to that maximum $2.70. So what we have done over the last 5 years, and we'll do again next year, is we backfill the rest of that. So it tells us we need this much to pay our debt payment, and we have this much extra. We fill that in, and we are paying off $1.65 million of that bond early, and so far we have saved $533,000 in interest by just utilizing that debt levy that we have to pay this off faster. Our nutrition fund, we have consistently, for the last few years, our expenditures have exceeded our revenues. I think you'll notice FY 27 is going to be closer together, and I believe FY 26 will actually end up closer together than what it has. This might be a better graph to show. So just some historical information on that nutrition fund balance. So I went back to 2020. Our ending fund balance was $220,000. And then COVID happened, and all of our meals were funded entirely by the USDA, so they were free for kids to eat. The reimbursement on those meals was actually higher than what a paid lunch cost us, and our fund balance skyrocketed. We accumulated so much more money than what we were sending out the door. So we made some adjustments. We added some extra benefits in for our nutrition staff they hadn't seen because this is too high and was too much. So we are now declining. So we are getting back to about a level in a couple more years probably. We'll be back to about the level we were pre-COVID. This is also another one of those funds where we're needing to see that level off. And I believe Cindy has worked on that. The price of food has come down significantly, which has been helpful. We've raised our meal prices to help slow this trajectory down. So Nutrition fund's always on the radar. It's either too high or it's too low, so we're keeping an eye on that and making sure we're making the best decisions to keep that steady. Our activity fund, our student enterprises, so those student businesses, the restaurant and the greenhouse, and Pearl. Those are all ones that whatever comes in is what we budget to go out for the year. They're always in-outs. The construction fund, obviously budgeted next year for no revenue because we're receiving all of that revenue on Wednesday. And then the expenditures is 2.5 and some change. What it is I took what my estimate for this year, spending all the rest of it next year. We will probably have a budget amendment next year for construction because we'll have to, whatever we don't spend this year, we'll spend next year. So I have budgeted enough, more than enough, I think, to pay all of the bills for this year on the construction projects. So I probably over budgeted what we'll spend. We'll carry it forward. We'll amend the budget next year to make sure that we spend all of our construction money. So that's how we look at all of our revenues and expenses. Yay, fun. Any questions about those specifically? Having a blast. So the certified budget says we don't care where it came from or what it is. We want to know what function does it serve? What purpose is it? So with a certified budget, it takes all of that work and all of those numbers that I am calculating by fund and typing in and says, perfect. Reclump them together like this. So it reports them as instruction. So all of the instructional type functions, student activities, educational supplies, teacher insurance, it takes them all and it clumps them together and says we're going to spend $6.8 million on instructional type things next year. We're going to spend 4.2 on support services, our counselors, our nurses, our administrators, custodians, bus drivers, gas, maintenance things. We're going to spend that there. Non-instruction is $560,000. That's our nutrition and those student businesses. And then everything else, 5.2. So those are our debt payments, construction costs, facility improvements, and the AEA flow-through dollars for special ed. This is what that's going to look like. Well, it's going to be split on it's 2 slides. So the top half of that certified budget document, this is what goes in the newspaper. This top part is saying, here is where all of our revenues by these squished together sources. So our taxes levied on property will bring in almost $5.8 million across all funds. Earnings on investment will bring in $160 on all funds. It wraps them all together, shows our total resources, which would be our total revenue and fund balance, beginning balance as we carry forward. And then down here is where it's showing those excuse me, expenditures by those different categories: instruction, support services, non-instruction, total other, and it does report that property tax rate at the bottom. So that is the document that everybody sees, but doesn't really tell you. I don't think it really tells you a lot. A budget, we are doing a budget amendment because we have construction costs, and we didn't know we were going to have construction costs at this point last year, so we're amending our fiscal 26 budget to include $2.371 million for the parking lot construction and then the mobilization for the elementary remodel. Our timeline, just to give you an idea of what's coming tonight. So tonight, we're reviewing our proposed budget for next year. We're going to approve it for publication, and we'll set the public hearing date for our regular April board meeting for anybody to come to comment on that. In April, we'll hold the public hearing on the budget, and then we will adopt that. Just some deadlines. It will be published in the newspaper next Wednesday. And we'll have our budget, our public hearing and adopt the budget on our April 13th meeting. Then it goes to the Department of Management in the county after that. So we are, after the certification, just a reminder, how we review and how we monitor our finances every year after, it's not just a one and done. We'll have our monthly financial reports in the board packets to monitor our financial position. Our fiscal year closes on June 30th, but we accrue or charge back any invoices from this year that I receive all the way through August 31st. So things that I receive after July 1, but before August 31st that are for this current year, we're charging them back. So the books are still open. We do a big annual report to the state by September 15th. And then after that, after everything has been certified in October, we'll come back and we'll talk about where did we actually end. You know, a lot of this is where I think we'll end FY26, and we'll talk about in October where we actually ended things, updated unspent balance projections, all of those things. So just our final highlights, the overall property tax rate will be decreasing 1 cent to $13.40. Our unspent balance, which is our strongest indicator of financial health, remains well above 20%, but it is declining. And part of, you know, we've had low supplemental state aid and declining enrollments. Those are our two major factors on that decreasing revenue. Anything you want to circle back to, or more questions, or we're good?
Very thorough.
Nice.
You just have a nice job.
It's good.
It's good.
No questions or comments? Did you want to say anything to wrap it up?
Yeah, I just think Melissa did a great job. At the end of the day, we are exactly where we've openly discussed. You know, that we are going to be anticipating spending more than our revenues, but we have a UAV that's higher than it needs to be right now. And within probably 2 or 3 years, we're going to have to make some adjustments.
Well, you guys have done a really good job. I mean, following the plan, like you said. I mean, no surprises. That's always good. when you're talking finances, no surprises. Okay, so we need, looks like we need to approve the proposed budget amendment. Then you can see the rest if anyone's interested in making that motion.
If there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed fiscal year 26 budget amendment and fiscal year 27 certified budget for publishing, setting a public hearing for both on April 13th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in the Middle High School Library.
Second.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fanciful?
Yes.
Merritt?
Yes. And that's it. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fanciful?
Yes.
Merritt?
Yes.
That was painless.
It was.